We've had some beautiful offerings of prayer, so this will be a short one, but I'd like to preface it with this. We were asked by Dr. Gokak, I'm sure with Baba's permission, to speak to the college boys when we were there several years ago. And Charles called on me to say a prayer which he hadn't mentioned beforehand. And as I was standing up to get ready to do it, I was saying in my mind to Baba, Swami, if you hear me 14,000 miles away, you've got to hear me today. You're just in the next building. And immediately afterwards, he called us for an interview. And as we came in, he said to me, I heard your prayer. So I want to give you faith today that he hears your prayers. If he doesn't answer them all, you must know it's for your good that he doesn't. But if we really genuinely pray to Baba from our heart and have faith, I know that our prayer gets through. So perhaps we'll just close our eyes, or if you prefer to look at the altar, that's fine. But just center our thoughts within for a moment and ask his sweet blessing. Beloved Baba, would you repeat? We thank thee for this beautiful gathering of the one divine soul, which thou art, which we are. We lay the flowers of our love gently at thy feet. Receive us. I am thine. Thou art mine. We are one. And we are never apart. Thou who art dissolving our egos, pleasantly or unpleasantly, we see it as a sign of thy great grace. And we give thanks for everything. Continue to bless this beautiful occasion. And may we each receive something that is needed within. Om. Peace. Amen. I had a thought about beginning to find the inner view, which we all want to do more and more. We can't all run to India every few months. Most of us are lucky if we get there once a year, once in 3 years, 5 years, whatever. So we have to learn that truly Baba is within us, around us, surrounding us, everywhere. We constantly sing of his omnipresence, his omniscience, but do we always really believe it? Back in 1964, he sent Judge Rao to the United States. Now, Judge Rao was very active in Lions International, and he was chairman in the Indian organization. And so he came to Chicago. But before he left, Baba called him in, and he gave him 2 names of people to look up in California, and one of their names was Charles Penn. He always calls him Charles. And quickly, Mr. Rao said, but Baba, I am not going to California. I'm on Air India, and I'm only going to Chicago. Baba said, take the names and give them my love and blessings, and I'll see you on your return, and dismissed him. Well, of course, this stuck in Judge Rao's mind, but after he had the long trip, it sort of faded. Anyway, he telephoned us from Chicago, and he said he was there, and he was sorry that he couldn't come out, but it would be wonderful if he could. And then the next day, the airline people notified him that Air India had gone on strike. And she said, I can't get you home. And he said, but you can take me via the West. And she said, I don't think so. And so every day he checked with her while this Lions International meeting was going on. She said, I'm sorry, Mr. Rao, we just have no way of doing that. And he said, well, I understand. Then all of a sudden, the last day of the conference, just before he checked out of the hotel, he was summoned by the airlines and said, guess what? You can go home via Los Angeles. And we lived in Santa Monica at the time. And we had never met him, but he contacted Charles and we all got together. And, you know, this should encourage your faith that you're used as an instrument, for he was truly an instrument to us. Here we'd never been to see Baba. We had the one book that we were just beginning to work on, and with Professor Kasturi's help and Dr. Tyberg's help, both with the Sanskrit, we were plowing through on this American edition of Satyam Sivam Sundaram Part 1. So he sat on the sofa in the middle, and we sat, and we each held one of his hands. And really, we got such a darshan, we will never forget it. And it was a glorious, glorious occasion. But that wasn't all. He had a secret desire, which he hadn't shared with anyone, that he wanted to see just a peek of San Francisco. Who wouldn't like just a peek of San Francisco? And he didn't say a word. And some friends of ours who owned an airplane called and said, how would you like to go up? It's full moon, which is going to be here Monday, you know. It's full moon. How would you like to fly up to San Francisco? We'll take Judge Rao and we'll have an Indian dinner up there and come home the same night. Well, he nearly fainted when we told him. And to make it even more exciting, my mother was in Seattle at the time, and they had arranged for Mother to fly down to San Francisco and meet, and then she would come home with us. And that was a great surprise and a blessing for me. And so we had a wonderful time together, and the darshan that flowed through him was just really marvelous. So I began to see that Baba really was within all of us, and the interview began to be impressed upon me. And then he said, when are you coming to India? When are you coming to see Baba? And we said, well, we feel we'll be directed and we'll see about that. It wasn't very long before we received an invitation to, I'm getting ahead of my story. First, I had a vision, and coincidentally, in quotations, Mother received a vision the same night. And this was following my 4 o'clock in the morning meditation. And I saw Baba, and he was in the position, they still sell the photograph, kind of like this, almost reclining on a couch like. And Judge Rao had given me a little picture that was very similar to this situation in the vision. And he had said to me, keep this as a talisman and keep it in your wallet. So I did that. And in the vision, suddenly Baba got up off the couch and started toward me, and then I started walking toward him, and he said, come to India. And then he blessed me at the third eye, and I had always received a lot of help through the Christian teachings, and so I realized that's why the next part of the vision happened. A loud voice came from behind Baba, and it said, I find no fault in this man. And I believe that is in our scriptures about Jesus. I'm not certain I've quoted it exactly right, but that's the theme. Anyway, I rushed into the dining room, and Mother was there, and she said, I dreamed of Baba. And I said, so did I. And it was within a week we got an invitation to the First World Conference in 1968, and that was a wonderful blessing, and it's been continuing ever since. Now, I began to see that from the blessing that I got in that vision, that I could also have this joy and this happiness with Baba in my work, in my daytime duties, that I didn't have to be disconnected and just have it through meditation. And so that's what I think we have to keep that thread going very steadily. When you finish your morning puja or bhajans and meditation, just try to keep that beautiful spirit that you feel. And even if you don't have such a wonderful meditation, just know Baba is there, and be aware of each thing we do. And the thread, the little knots on the thread to me are keeping in tune for every thought, word, and deed. It isn't an easy challenge, I grant you, and I know we're all having trouble with it, but it's something that we have to continue to aspire to. The time is getting on. Anyway, we were in the restaurant that night in San Francisco having a wonderful Indian meal. And I don't know what the bhajan was because I had not heard many bhajans up to that time. But it's the absolute truth. That melody was played over the intercom system that was giving music in the restaurant. And Judge Rao turned to me and he said, "Faith, I can't believe it. Listen what you're hearing." And I said, "I hear it, and I can't believe it either." And then, of course, all our table heard it. And I know that Baba is just doing things all the time for all of us. It's to increase our faith. It's to keep us encouraged. It's to make us know that he truly is omnipresent. And I feel that this interview, we've gotten a glimpse of it. We've all gotten a bit of a handle on it. And we have to go on with it because, as I said, we can't run back and forth to India to see the physical form all the time. And if you read Baba's teachings, you know he says the day comes when you have to merge away from the form to the formless. And when he placed his head against my mother's brow when we were there as the final darshan, I didn't know that's what it was, but I knew it was a darshan I'd never seen him do to anyone, and looked into her eyes for it seemed like 2 or 3 minutes. I realized that he was giving her the final wonderful darshan that would take her across, and she did. She passed peacefully in our home 6 weeks later. And she told me on Friday, "Baba has something to tell me." And I left the room, and when I returned, she said, "I won't be here much longer." Well, I didn't know how much longer was, but Sunday morning on January 13th, she left us. But she was conscious, and she just began to breathe just more gently, and Charles and I were reciting the Gayatri. And I tell you, Baba he really lifted the separation feeling from me for hours and hours and hours. But after I had to talk to about 15 in the family, I was so exhausted, I did break down and weep. And I've had a couple of good weeps, but I feel that she's appeared in my dreams, and Baba has appeared with her. And I know that he has her where he wants her, and that everything is in his divine will. And it's so wonderful to realize that there is no separation, really. We're just cloaked in this body, and all these temporal things we see have to go, and they will go in their time. But how wonderful that we're realizing we're spirit and not just the body.